Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food Book Reviews. I dreamed myself here. Have any of you out there tried this transcendental meditation stuff? I'm not going to be like a David Lynch proponent. It's really great, but, that actually is a pretty effective tool for your box. So, feeling pretty good. Very calm. Very nice day outside. Who on earth reviews this in sunny weather? Me, that's who. What a book. It's one of the nice things about having this channel is that not only do I give book recommendations to change people's lives, but other people change my life with their wonderful, insightful recommendations. And this is just a gem. This is a hell of a book. I don't know how to navigate this review. I have no idea where to begin, although Pessoa would probably say that beginning is giving up. So, here I go into the abyss of inaction. Except not. Except maybe. I'll never fully process it, and I don't know if I would want to. This is easily one of the most incredible, unbelievable books I've ever read, and the story behind it seems like pure fiction. And many people along the way of this channel have recommended the Book of Disquiet. And forgive me, though, I don't know who first recommended it, and I can't sift through all the comments, but, Certainly this is for all the friends out there in Portugal. I've spent quite a bit of time in Lisbon. Wonderful city. If you've never been, ahead and put it on the top of your list. Beautiful place. Wonderful people. Incredible food. Very historically interesting and mysterious architecture. All around Lisbon and Old Lisbon, but also in some small towns out towards the coast. Sintra was my favorite place in the world. That was where Lord Byron was kicking around, drinking ginja, and writing poetry. And it's a little town on the side of a mountain with a Moorish castle on top, and it's all these decaying chateaus and a lot of old overgrowth everywhere, trees everywhere, and beautiful women, but no fala português. Gotta get on that. Fernando Pessoa was a Portuguese author and poet born in 1888. He spent much of his time in Lisbon before passing away at the young age of 47. While he was widely considered one of the greatest poets in Portuguese history, he also spoke and wrote quite fluently in French and English. He was famous for writing through heteronyms, and this is actually a term that Pessoa created because he thought that pseudonym was too reductive and simplistic. Heteronym is an entirely different fictional author, and he had close to 80 of these heteronyms constructed ever since he was a kid. He started when he was like 6. And he just constructed these personalities and these points of view, often extremely different from one another. The Book of Disquiet was not published while Pessoa was alive. In fact, far, far after he had passed away. This was quite literally locked in a trunk and found after he had passed away, along with an almost nauseating amount of work that, I kid you not, is still being edited to this day. This is a man who wrote in almost total obscurity. He published a few books while he was alive, but this was a real life of the mind modus operandi, an introvert to conquer all introverts. It's speculated he was a lifelong virgin, and he's quite possibly the most articulated sufferer of abysmally depressive loneliness and an absolute, flat-out, indispensable genius. I love to be surprised when, as though I've wrenched all the nourishment from the wet towel of fiction, and then all of a sudden I'm covered in a torrential, cascading flood of original prose. So distinctively unique, it's aggravating to realize that you'll never write anything that good. Well, you might, but I probably will not. Writing from all of these different heteronyms, the Book of Disquiet is sort of structured like a diary into 481 entries of all of these different characters, all ranging from several pages to just a few words. I have so many dog-ears in this book that, I have so many dog-ear pages in this book that I almost want to start back at the beginning again, if it weren't for some of the truly devastating passages of contradictory desire for lack of desiring and heralding of total inaction. Yeah. Pessoa is an absolute and total contradiction, at least, the way he's portrayed in this book. Got a little bit of sun there, I had to cool down a little bit. Yeah, there we go. A man who may have known that people were the most important thing in life, and yet if he did know that, he willfully ignored it and chose the opposite route. He preferred to dream his life as opposed to living it. I've never done anything but dream. This and this alone has been the meaning of my life. My only real concern has been my inner life. My worst sorrows have evaporated when I have opened the window onto the street of my dreams and forgotten myself and what I saw there. I've never aspired to be more than a dreamer. I paid no attention to those who spoke to me of living. I've always belonged to what isn't where I am and to what I could never be. Whatever isn't mine, no matter how base, has always had poetry for me. The only thing I've loved is nothing at all. The only thing I've desired is what I couldn't even imagine. Oh man. I want to read more, but we gotta keep going. This is a man who so desperately craved love, or the want to love, or to want love after losing so many people in his life. From a young age, too. His father died when he was young. His mother died later on. He always had this sort of persona of being a stranger. The only attitude worthy of a superior man is to persist in an activity he recognizes is useless, to observe a discipline he knows is sterile, and to apply certain norms of philosophical and metaphysical thought that he considers utterly inconsequential. A Borgesian disciple of the highest degree, going through Joyce, T.S. Eliot, Milton, Shakespeare, everyone, yet relatively simple to read, or perhaps so brilliantly constructed that it only seems simple in its execution. I'm handed faith like a sealed package on a strange-looking platter and am expected to accept it without opening it. I'm handed science like a knife on a plate to cut the folios of a book whose pages are blank. I'm handed doubt like dust inside a box. But why give me a box if all it contains is dust? No intelligent idea can gain general acceptance unless some stupidity is mixed in with it. Collective thought is stupid because it's collective. Nothing passes into the realm of the collective without leaving at the border, like a toll, most of the intelligence it contained. In youth we're twofold. Our innate intelligence, which may be considerable, coexists with the stupidity of our inexperience, which forms a second lesser intelligence. Only later on do the two unite. That's why youth always blunders, not because of its inexperience, but because of its non-unity. Today, the only course left for the man of superior intelligence is abdication. Sometimes he'll start somewhere and then he'll just contradict himself like 2 or 3 times over by the end of the whole, paragraph occasionally. But it never seems like he's lying, even though what he says may not be true. And trust me, I'm not spoiling any of this for you. I mean, you're going to find so many of these that you love. There's almost 500 of these, so I mean, you have so much to discover that I could not possibly spoil the Book of Disquiet for you. We never love anyone. What we love is the idea we have of someone. It's our own concept, our own selves that we love. This is true in the whole gamut of love. In sexual love, we seek our own pleasure via another body. In non-sexual love, we seek our own pleasure via our own idea. The masturbator may be abject, but in point of fact, he's the perfect logical expression of the lover. He's the only one who doesn't feign and doesn't fool himself. The relations between one soul and another, expressed through such uncertain and variable things as shared words and proffered gestures, are deceptively complex. The very act of meeting each other is a non-meeting. Two people say, "I love you," or mutually think it and feel it, and each has in mind a different idea, a different life, perhaps even a different color or fragrance in the abstract sum of impressions that constitute the soul's activity. Today I'm lucid as if I didn't exist. My thinking is as naked as a skeleton, without the fleshly tatters of the illusion of expression. And these considerations that I forge and abandon weren't born from anything, at least not from anything in the front rows of my consciousness. Perhaps it was this sales representative's disillusion with his girlfriend. Perhaps a sentence I read in one of the romantic tales that our newspapers reprint from the foreign press, or perhaps just a vague nausea for which I can think of no physical cause. The scholiast who annotated Virgil was wrong. Understanding is what wearies us most of all. To live is to not think. And he's also certainly not without a sense of humor. For example, read the chapter on indifference, or something like that, as it's titled. The superior man differs from the inferior man and his animal brothers by the simple trait of irony. Irony is the first sign that our consciousness has become conscious, and it passes through two stages. The one represented by Socrates when he says, "All I know is that I know nothing," and the other represented by Sanchez when he says, "I don't even know if I know nothing." And throughout it, he rejects almost everything. He even rejects, as I'm sure a lot of people are ready to label this, pessimism. He even rejects pessimism in a very simple and poignant manner, which I will gladly read you now. I don't complain about the world. I don't protest in the name of the universe. I'm not a pessimist. I suffer and complain, but I don't know if suffering is the norm, nor do I know if it's human to suffer. Why should I care to know? I suffer without knowing if I deserve to. I'm not a pessimist. I'm sad. To read is to dream, guided by someone else's hand. To read carelessly and distractedly is to let go of that hand. To be only superficially learned is the best way to read well and be profound. How shoddy and contemptible life is. Note that, for it to be shoddy and contemptible, all it takes is you not wanting it being given to you anyway, and nothing about it depending on your will or even on your illusion of your will. To die is to become completely other. That's why suicide is a cowardice. It's to surrender ourselves completely to life. Whatever we pursue for the sake of an ambition, but either we never realize the ambition and we are poor, or we think we've realized it and we're rich fools. Pessoa's trunk, Pandora's box. The unrecognized genius of a dead Portuguese master. In an even stranger and infinitely disturbing passage that has kept me up a little bit, he was his own prophet. What does that mean? It sometimes occurs to me with sad delight that if one day, in a future to which I won't belong, the sentences I write are read and admired, then at last I'll have my own kin, people who understand me, my true family in which to be born and loved. But far from being born into it, I'll have already died long ago. I'll be understood only in effigy, when affection can no longer compensate for the indifference that was the dead man's lot in life. Perhaps one day they'll understand that I fulfill, like no one else, my instinctive duty to interpret a portion of our century. And when they've understood that, they'll write that in my time I was misunderstood, that the people around me were unfortunately indifferent and insensitive to my work, and that it was a pity this happened to me, and whoever writes this will fail to understand my literary counterpart in the future time, just as my contemporaries don't understand me, because men learn only what would be of use to their great-grandparents. The right way to live is something we can teach only the dead. And that totally happened. They found his book, and they just couldn't help themselves. And who else knows what this man has written? You know, I could read just about any sentence from this book and get something incredible out of it. It's not without its difficulties, though. It can become increasingly tedious and depressing reading line after line about tedium and depression. Me personally, I had to take some breaks now and then because I would often find my eyes about 5 pages ahead of where my brain was, just kind of glossing over. But that's just me personally. Some of you kids are going to pick this shit up and you're going to read it in 2 days and then start back at page 1. So it's a lamentation on love, dreams, art, existence, possession, expression, fulfillment, discouragement, interiority, exteriority, politics, nature, life itself. Maybe the saddest, beautiful book ever written. And now I've said so much about it, and you probably still have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. The review was set up to be a failure, because I've taken action to do it. But maybe that failure is a success. It's a success if you read the book and start dreaming. Yeah, start dreaming. So it's absolutely better than food. Worth dreaming. Please remember what Mr. John Waters said. If you go home with someone and they don't have books, think about why they don't have books, because they might actually be the next genius author in the next 50 years after everybody passes away. And make sure that the reason they don't have books is because they're stupid before you don't fuck them, and not because they've read so many books that they just got tired of reading and just had to write all their own stuff, which is actually locked in a trunk in the corner of the room. Check for trunks. And then give them a hug if they look like they need it. Okay. Have a great day. See you soon. Bye.